Okay, so adding and subtracting, we have to line the decimal places up for them to, I'm going to take my mask off so that I'm not muffled. We have to line them up in order to, so the place values all line up. Multiplying, we just multiply the question first, then we stick how many decimal places were in the question into the answer. The lovely thing about dividing is it's super easy. Where the decimal place is in the question is where the decimal place will be in your answer. You just slide it up. All right? So we are going to be looking at, so here's the parts of a division question, right? So when I talk about a divisor, that's this number right here. The one that goes out front is always the one that's after your dividing symbol. So the 6 would be this number right here. The dividend is the number that you started with. So that's my dividend. It goes inside the square, inside the division sign. You will, sometimes you hear of a quotient, right? When I divide, I'm actually finding a quotient because the quotient is the answer.
Nope.
Okay? And then sometimes we have a remainder. Today's questions, this first section of dividing, we will not have any remainders. They may go on for a little bit. You may have a lot of decimal places, but they will eventually end up at 0. All right? So the first thing we're going to do is to estimate to be able to circle the correct answer. So is the answer 1.354, 13.54, or 135.4? So again, with multiplying, we just kind of had to pick what the nearest one was, right? So for example, if I had this question, this same question, 8.124 times 6, I could just go 8 times 6 is 48. That was my estimation. But the problem with division is not everything divides evenly, right? I cannot go 8 divided by 6. It doesn't work. Okay? So that means that I need to look at my 6 times table, right? And figure out what is a number that is closest to 8 that divides by 6. All right? Well, my choices that divide by 6 are 6, 12, 18, 24. Now, does it make sense for my 8 to become a 6 or for my 8 to become a 12? Where is 8 closer to? 6, right? Do we see that 8 is closer to 6? So I'm going to round down and say 6 divided by 6. My answer should be around a 1. Right? I rounded down, so I know that my answer is going to be a little bit more than that. So I can go over here now and choose the appropriate answer. 1 decimal something, 13 decimal something, 135 decimal. Well, that makes sense that my answer should be 1.354 because that's closest to my estimate. All right? Well, we got a couple more examples if you're confused. So I need something that's going to divide by 3 that's closest to a 37. Right? Because 37 doesn't divide by 3. So I need to go either up or down to find a number that divides by 3.
I know.
What do you got, Chelsea?
So, 36.
36 does, right? 36 divides by 3, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I get a 12. So that means decimal 1, 2, 1 decimal 2, or 12.64. Well, I'm going to go with 12.64.
SOS.
All right. So now I've got 7.624 divided by 8. So I need a number that's going to be divisible by 8 that's closest to 7 as possible. 8. All right. And all these do is help me figure out whether my answer is going to be reasonable, right? And I need a number that is closest to 1. Well, 9.53, but look at this one. I have decimal 9. Where is decimal 9 on a number 9?
Below 0.
Below 0? So we've got 0, right? And I've got 1, 2. Where would decimal 9 be? So 0. And then this would be decimal 1, decimal 2, decimal 3, decimal 4, decimal 5 is halfway. Decimal 6, 7, 8, 9. Here's decimal 9. Right? And then these other decimal places behind it are just numbers there. But I'm looking at this first decimal place because I can visualize what decimal 9 looks like, right? So it's just before 1. So is 9, which would be all the way over here, right? If I kept extending my line, be way over here at 9, or this decimal 9. Which one's closer to 1?
Right there.
This one right here. Yeah. So just be careful there. All right, so we got 3 questions. It's about a frog contest. St. Pierre Jollies is a small town in Manitoba. Every August is home to its Frog Jollies frog jumping contest. The largest jump on record is 5.18 meters. All right, so we're looking at the longest jump that day was 5.18 meters. All right, so Rochelle, the first question says, Rochelle enters 4 frogs into the frog jumping contest. The total distance of her 4 frogs was 16.64. So they must be doing just 1 jump each. So however far 1 jump is, and then just adding them together, right? And her 4 frogs jump a total of 16.64. How far did, on average, did each frog jump? So 1 frog probably jumped farther. They're not all going to jump the same amount. But if we divide by 4, we'll get a relatively what each of the frogs will. So let's set it up. Make sure that you leave a little space up here because remember, when you put your division sign in, you're going to need to put your answer up here. Too many people start writing their thing way up here, and then they don't have any space to put their numbers. So put a good finger width down from your box so that you have some space to put it in there. Okay? The 4 is going to go on the outside because I have a total. Remember, division is a total divided by a piece or an amount, right? So my total is 16.64. That goes in the center, and I'm going to divide it by my 4. All right? So again, I'm going to go step by step. Now, I have this decimal place. This is how decimals work. This is how easy they are. Slide it up. That's all you have to do. So before you start the question, you slide it up.
It's even easier than multiplication.
It is the easiest thing ever. All right, and then we start dividing. 4 does not go into 1, so you can put your 0 there if you need to, just to make sure you keep your place value. All right, 4 doesn't go into 1, so 4 now goes into 16 4 times. I've used up all the 16 and get a 0. I ignore my decimal place because I just moved it up. Okay, I drop down my 6. Then I ask myself again, does 4 go into 6? Yes, it does. It goes in once. And I've used 4 times 1 uses up 4 of it, and I'm left with 2 left over. Same process every time. Drop my next 4 down, and I end up with 4 times 6 gives me 24 with a 0. Now, since it's a word question, I need to go and answer my question, right? It says, on average, how far did each frog jump? So each frog jumped 4.16, and I'm in meters. So each frog jumped that amount.
Why does it have to be so precise? Like, specific. I just wrote about
Well,
4.16 meters.
Yeah, jumped 4.16 because 0.16 is actually 16 centimeters, right? 2 decimal places after meters is a centimeter. So this jumped 4 meter sticks and then another 16 centimeters on a ruler.
Why can't you just
because that's not what they're asking you for.
All
right. The an estimate would be, right, if I asked you for an estimate, I would go just, in this case, 16 does divide by 4, so approximately 4 meters each, right? If I asked you, how far did each frog jump? Well, about 4 meters, right? But if I want to know perfectly, so if they were doing a contest, you would want to know exact values, right? You can't go, oh, that looks to be about, you can't do that. So in a contest, you have to be critical. All right, let's go to the second one. We have another person, Franklin. He also enters 4 frogs, but his total jumps are 27.3. Okay, on average, how far did each frog jump? Did his frog beat the record, and by how much? All right, so the longest jump we said was 5.18. Let's see, this guy did not make it, right? Rochelle's frog did not jump the record. But let's see if Franklin's does again. So the total, again, a total is what goes inside of your division. So 27.3. And again, we have 4 frogs on the outside. Okay, no, this is just a guy. All right. So I have 27 going into, so again, division, move my decimal place up. That's all I have to do. All right. Again, 4 did not go into 2, so I'm going to write a 0 in there just to keep my decimal place. 4 into 27. 4 times 6 gives me 24. 4 times, what? Yeah. 4 times 8 gives me 32. So 4 times 7 gives me 28. So 6 gives me 24. Subtract, I get a 3. Drop down my 3. 4 into 33, 8, right? 4 times 8 gives me 32. Now, normally I would end up with a 0, but I don't this time. I end up with a 1. So that means that I'm not done, because I said these answers will come out to be even, right? So that means that I need to add another 0. I need to keep going until I get a 0 as a remainder. So I add a 0 on. I'm going to keep going. Put that in. Even after this decimal place, it does not look like I'm going to be done, but we'll keep going. 4 goes into 10 twice, right? And I used up 8 of them, and I'm left with 2. Again, I got a remainder, so what do I have to do? Add another 0, so I'm going to extend my line, put another 0. And this time I notice this will be the last time, because 4 goes into 25 times, and I get my remainder. So in this case, I had to add 2 zeros in order to get far enough that I didn't do that. So here is my answer. So we got a 6.825 meter jump. Did he break the record? Yeah, he did. And so it asks us, how much did he break the record by? So again, I'm going back to my prior knowledge. I have to subtract now to get the difference. So 5.18 doesn't have the same amount of decimal places, but I do have to line up my decimal places. 5 there, 1, 8, and I'm going to put a 0 in just to fill up my decimal places so that I have them so that I can subtract. I'm going there. This was the record, right? 5.18. But I figured out 6.825. So I had to add a 0 right there so that I could subtract. So now I'm going to go subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5. 2 minus 8, can't do it. So I got to borrow from the 8. That becomes a 7. This becomes a 12. Now I can go 12 minus 8. Get myself a 4. 7 minus 1. Yep, I can do that. Drop my decimal place down. 6 minus 5 gives me 1. All right. So Franklin's frog beat the record by 1.645 meters. There we go. All right, so we had one frog that didn't beat the record, but we did have a frog that jumped 6.825. So really, these questions aren't anything really too much different than what we've had before. The only thing is now we're working with that decimal place. All right, last question. Across town, they were holding the snail races. Yeah, I know, it's just a free-for-all of races that day. Jason entered 4 of his snails into the race, and they traveled a combined distance of 83.848 millimeters. Millimeters. Yeah, because we do have snails here. How far did each snail travel? So, again, my 4 is going on the outside because my total has to go on the inside. 83.848. And again, I'm going to leave a little room in case I have to add some zeros, and I'm going to leave some room on the top so that I have space to put my number in.
83 what?
Okay, 83.848.
Wow.
All right, so this time I'm going to start here. 4 into 8 does go. So 4 goes into 8 twice. Using up all the 8, I get a 0. Oh, I didn't slide my decimal. So let me slide my decimal. Now, does 4 go into 3?
No.
No.
No, sir.
So I'm going to put a 0 there because it didn't go into it. And, oh, I got to drop my 3 down. There we go. Did 4 go into 3? No. So that means I'm going to drop another number down. I put my 0 in for my placeholder saying it didn't go into the 3. I drop another number down, and now it becomes 38. Yes. 4 times 9 gives me 36. And I'm left with 2 left over. This time drop another number down. So I'm working with that column. Make sure you're lining things up nicely. 4 goes into 24 6 times. I'm left with nothing again. That's my goal, but I do have one more number. Drop my 8 down. 4 does go into 8 twice. And I don't have to add any more zeros this time because I do end up with a remainder of 0. So the snail traveled, right, 20.962 millimeters. So if I change that to centimeters, I just move 1 decimal place. So about 2.1, right? So we're looking at, well, there's 2 centimeters right there. It's about how far the thing raced, as opposed to the frogs much farther. Okay? There you go. There's a whole movie on it. Okay, that puts us at that spot. That's the end.